You look absolutely stunning. May I have this dance?
Appearances can be deceiving.
Before we begin, I'd like to ask you for a small favor. I'm really hoping to break through the magical barrier of 1,000 subscribers. That number holds a special significance for me. Hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but for me, it's a huge boost of motivation to create my next video. Thank you in advance. Laughter died abruptly as Sofia descended the grand ballroom staircase with majestic grace, her navy blue dress shimmering under the lights like a starry night sky. Javier Mendoza felt a chill crawl up his spine as his wife, whom he'd left at home with a fabricated excuse of indisposition, appeared before all his colleagues and superiors, including CEO Alejandro Riveros. Instinctively, Javier dropped the arm of his secretary Camila, whose scarlet dress was a stark contrast to Sofia's understated elegance. "What the hell is she doing here?" he whispered to himself, watching his carefully crafted plan crumble before his eyes. What no one in the opulent hotel knew was that barely an hour earlier, Javier had uttered the words to his secretary that would now seal his fate. "Camila, you are the kind of woman a man is proud to present. My wife simply lacks the necessary refinement for these corporate events." Javier had meticulously planned everything. The provincial wife, a literature teacher at a public school, would never fit into the sophisticated corporate world he aspired to conquer. Sofia was brilliant, yes, but socially awkward, uninterested in office politics, and in Javier's view, lacked the polish to help him climb the corporate ladder at Riveros Enterprises. Camila Vargas, on the other hand, his executive assistant for 2 years, seemed born for this world, beautiful, articulate, with an MBA from a Catholic university and family connections in the business sphere. To Javier, she represented not just a competent professional partner, but an opportunity to project the perfect image to the company's executives. The annual Riveros Enterprises Charity Ball was the most significant corporate event of the year. It was where alliances were forged, lasting impressions were made, and where Alejandro Riveros frequently announced major promotions. Javier was vying for the position of vice president of operations with only one other candidate, Diego Herrera, and he knew every detail counted. The thought of bringing Sofia, with her visible discomfort at formal events and her tendency to ask naive questions about the business, seemed like a risk he wasn't willing to take. The night before the ball, Javier had carefully constructed his story. "Darling, I'm not feeling well," Sofia had lied as he adjusted his bow tie in the mirror. "I don't think I'll be able to go tomorrow." Javier feigned disappointment, insisting she rest. "Your health is more important. I'll just go to represent us, and be back early." Sofia had kissed him on the cheek, thanking him for his understanding, completely unaware that her husband had already invited his secretary, with whom he'd been having a discreet affair for 6 months, to accompany him. Javier and Camila had rehearsed the story. She was a family friend in town, and he had kindly invited her so as not to waste Sofia's ticket. Nothing to raise undue suspicion, just a gesture of professional courtesy. But the plan had another purpose. Javier wanted his superiors to associate his image with Camila's, not Sofia's. He was calculating, cold, but he justified it to himself as a necessity for his advancement. What Javier didn't know was that afternoon, Alejandro Riveros had personally called their residence to confirm the attendance of all executives and their spouses. Sofia, recovered from her momentary indisposition, had answered the call. When the CEO mentioned how eager he was to finally meet her at the evening's event, Sofia's initial confusion quickly morphed into a painful realization. "Of course, Mr. Riveros," she'd replied, with a calm that belied the internal storm brewing. "I, too, am looking forward to meeting you in person." After hanging up, Sofia remained motionless for several minutes. Pieces of an unpleasant puzzle clicked into place in her mind. The unexplained overtime, suspicious messages, subtle shifts in Javier's behavior, his insistence that she not attend company events, it all made a terrible kind of sense now. Her first impulse was to confront him, to scream, to cry, to demand explanations. But Sofia Martinez de Mendoza hadn't earned respect as an educator for 2 decades by reacting impulsively to provocations. Instead, she did something that surprised even herself. She opened the closet, pulled out the navy blue dress she had bought months ago for a special occasion and never worn, and began to get ready. The dress had been a significant investment, one Sofia had made after receiving an award for excellence in education. Javier had frowned at the price, remarking it was a waste for someone who rarely attended formal events. She'd kept it, waiting for a special occasion that never seemed to arrive. Now, as she slipped it on, Sofia felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She called her friend Carolina, an art teacher and stylist in her spare time. "I need your help, immediately." 3 hours later, Sofia entered the lobby of the Grand Plaza Hotel, unrecognizable even to herself. Carolina had worked magic. Her hair, usually pulled back in a practical bun, now cascaded in soft waves framing her face. Subtle makeup enhanced her green eyes and the cheekbones Javier used to praise when they met in college. The dress she had deemed perhaps too extravagant now seemed exactly what the occasion called for. "Remember," Carolina whispered as she left her at the entrance, "you're not doing this for him, you're doing it for you." And now, here she was, descending the main staircase of the ballroom, each step measured and deliberate, feeling eyes turn in her direction. Sofia wasn't naive. She knew she wasn't the most beautiful woman in the room, but at that moment, she wore something more powerful than conventional beauty: purpose. As she descended, her eyes met Javier's, who looked as if he were seeing a ghost. Beside him, Camila, in her red dress, unconsciously squeezed his arm, a territorial gesture that did not go unnoticed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the deep voice of Alejandro Riveros boomed through the room, cutting through the rising murmur. "What an unexpected pleasure. By my understanding, we have a special guest tonight." The CEO, a man in his early 60s with silvering hair and an imposing presence, walked to the foot of the stairs and extended his hand to Sofia. "The renowned Mrs. Mendoza, I presume. Her reputation precedes her." Sofia felt a blush creep up her neck as she accepted the offered hand. "I'm afraid there must be some mistake, Mr. Riveros." "I'm not renowned at all." "I strongly disagree." The CEO replied with a warm smile. "When the National Education Association bestows its Educator of the Year award, I pay attention, especially when the recipient is the wife of one of our most promising executives." Javier felt the blood drain from his face. Educator of the Year? Sofia had never mentioned such an award. Or perhaps she had, and he hadn't paid attention. "It's very kind of you, Mr. Riveros, but I fear you're mistaking me for someone more notable," Sofia responded, with a genuine modesty that instantly captivated everyone around her. "Impossible," Riveros insisted. "Your lecture on integrating classical literature into the modern curriculum has been replayed in every education faculty in the country. My granddaughter, who is studying pedagogy at the University of Chile, won't stop quoting you." He turned to Javier, who seemed to be struggling to breathe. "Mendoza, you should have told us you married an educational celebrity. We're planning to expand our foundation for educational support, and your wife would be an invaluable advisor." It was at this moment that Diego Herrera, Javier's rival for the promotion, approached with his wife. "Dr. Martinez, what an honor to finally meet you in person." "My daughter attends the school where you gave that lecture last semester. She came home saying she wanted to be a literature teacher." Sofia smiled genuinely, recognizing the executive. "Mr. Herrera, your daughter Valentina is exceptionally talented. She has a critical eye that many university students would envy." The conversation flowed naturally as Sofia was introduced to executive after executive, many of whom already knew of her work or had children impacted by her innovative educational methods. Javier watched from a distance, unable to approach, feeling Camila slowly distance herself from him. The secretary was many things, but she wasn't stupid. She could read the body language of those around her, and knew when a battle was lost before it had even begun. During dinner, Javier finally managed to approach Sofia, who had been seated at the head table with Alejandro Riveros, an honor usually reserved for senior executives. "Can we speak privately?" he whispered tensely, as the waiters served the appetizer. Sofia maintained her social smile, responding without looking directly at him. "I think we've spoken enough privately, Javier. Tonight I prefer to speak publicly. Why did you never tell me about the award?" The question came out more accusatory than he intended. Finally, Sofia turned to look at him, her green eyes as hard as emeralds. "I told you 3 times. The last time, you were too busy exchanging messages with someone to even notice. You just grunted, 'That's great, dear,' without looking up from your phone." The realization hit Javier like a physical blow. He truly didn't know his wife. For years, he had presumed her career was less significant than his own. He had seen her social awkwardness as a weakness, failing to realize she simply reserved her confidence and eloquence for arenas that truly mattered to her. The dinner proceeded like a surreal experience for Javier. He watched Sofia discuss educational policy with multinational CEOs, debate Russian literature with the wife of a senator in attendance, and genuinely make Alejandro Riveros laugh, something few in the company had ever witnessed. It wasn't just a matter of her behaving appropriately. Sofia was in her element, shining brighter than he had ever seen her. As the music started and couples gravitated towards the dance floor, Javier found himself alone in a corner, Camila having discreetly disappeared after sensing the dramatic shift in the social winds. It was Lucia Riveros, the CEO's wife, who found him there, offering him a glass of champagne. "Your wife is extraordinary, Mr. Mendoza," she commented, with the characteristic frankness of women who require no social approval. "Alejandro is absolutely charmed. He's been looking for someone with her perspective to lead the restructuring of our educational foundation." Javier swallowed. "She truly is special." Lucia observed him for a moment with her perceptive eyes. "You know what's curious? I always pictured you differently. Alejandro always praised your intellect, your strategic vision, but it takes a different kind of intelligence to recognize a diamond when you already have it in your hand." She took a sip of champagne before continuing. "My husband and I have been married for 42 years. Do you know why? Because he never for 1 second saw me as an accessory to his career. He saw me as his partner in everything." Before Javier could respond, Alejandro Riveros's voice rang out over the sound system. The traditional moment for announcements had arrived. Everyone knew the promotion to vice president would be revealed tonight. "Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues," Riveros began. "As always, this event is not merely a celebration, but a moment to announce new directions for our company." He paused dramatically. "This year, in addition to announcing our new VP of Operations, I have the immense pleasure of announcing a significant expansion of our Riveros Foundation for Educational Excellence." Javier barely heard his heart thudding as he waited for the promotion announcement. Diego Herrera will be assuming the role of Vice President of Operations, bringing his unparalleled expertise in supply chain optimization to our executive team. The room erupted in applause as Javier felt his world completely crumble. All his planning, the moral sacrifices, the way he'd treated Sofia, all for naught. But Riveros wasn't finished. "I also have the distinct honor of announcing that our foundation will have a new executive director, someone whose innovative vision in education will transform our philanthropic approach. Dr. Sofia Martinez has accepted our invitation to lead this initiative with an annual budget of $20 million. The ballroom exploded in even more enthusiastic applause. Javier watched Sofia, looking genuinely surprised, being embraced by Lucia Riveros. His world wasn't just crumbling. It was being entirely reconfigured before his eyes. Hours later, as the event wound down, Javier found Sofia on the hotel terrace, gazing out at the city lights. For a moment, they stood in silence, side by side. "I didn't know about the position," Sofia said finally. "Alejandro offered it to me during dinner. I thought it was just social conversation." Javier swallowed the lump in his throat. "Are you going to accept?" "I don't know. It's an incredible opportunity to effect real change in the educational system." She turned to look at him. "But there are other considerations. Sofia, the words failed him. How to apologize for years of devaluing her? For a betrayal that went beyond the affair with Camila, the fundamental betrayal of not truly seeing the woman he'd married. "Not tonight, Javier," Sofia interrupted softly. "Tonight was about remembering who I am. Tomorrow, we can discuss who we are together, or if there's still an us." She turned away, rejoining the party to bid guests farewell, leaving Javier alone with thoughts he'd never been forced to confront. The shimmer of her navy dress disappeared into the crowd, like a star being reabsorbed into the vastness of the night sky. But unlike distant, unattainable stars, Sofia was within reach. If he was wise enough to recognize the value of what he had almost thrown away, brave enough to make the necessary changes, and humble enough to deserve a second chance. The apartment was silent when Javier arrived well after midnight. There was no sign of Sofia, only a note on the entryway table. "I'm at Carolina's. We need to talk tomorrow. Not like we have for years. Really talk." He sank onto the sofa, his bow tie loose around his neck, confronting the emptiness he had created in his life. The next morning, Javier woke early, determined to at least try to fix what he had broken. He sent a message to Sofia, asking to meet for breakfast. "In public," she replied. "The coffee shop near the park, 9 a.m. The small cafe was nearly empty when Javier arrived 15 minutes early. Sofia was already there, no longer in the dazzling dress of the night before, but in her usual style. Well-cut jeans, a simple blouse, her hair pulled back into a practical ponytail, yet Javier saw her with new eyes. How had he been so blind? For so long. "Thank you for coming," he began, sitting across from her. "I always come when I say I will, Javier." The simple response carried the weight of years of broken promises, his, not hers. He nodded, accepting the implicit criticism. "You were incredible last night, not just beautiful, but brilliant. I've always been the same person." Sofia took a sip of her tea. "The difference is, yesterday you had to see me through other people's eyes. The truth hurt, precisely because it was undeniable." "I betrayed you," Javier admitted. "Not just with Camila, but every day, by not recognizing who you are." Sofia remained silent, waiting. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he continued. "I don't deserve it. I'm asking for time to show that I can change, that I want to change." "Why?" The question hung between them. "Because you discovered I'm more socially valuable than you thought? Because I can now be an asset to your career?" Javier felt the blow, knowing he deserved every word. "I deserve that, but no, Sofia, because last night showed me how hollow I've become. While you were growing, I was diminishing, becoming a lesser version of myself, obsessed with appearances and status. You were always real. I became a shell." Something in his tone, the raw honesty perhaps, made Sofia truly look at him for the first time that morning. "I don't know if we can go back, Javier." "I don't want to go back," he replied. "I want to go forward, build something new, something true." Sofia placed her cup on the table, studying him. "Alejandro offered me the position formally this morning. Full salary, benefits, a significant budget to implement educational programs nationwide." "You should accept," Javier said without hesitation. "It's your dream job. What about you, your career at Riveros?" Javier shrugged. "I can find another job, or not. Maybe it's time to reevaluate what really matters." A small smile touched the corner of Sofia's lips. "That's not what I expected you to say." "To be honest, it's not what I expected to say, but it's the truth." He hesitated before continuing. "You know, for all the time we've been married, you've supported me. You celebrated my victories, consoled my defeats. I never, not once, did the same for you. That changes today, if you give me the chance." Sofia didn't respond immediately. Instead, she opened her purse and took out an envelope, sliding it across the table. "Open it." Javier complied, finding partially completed divorce papers. His heart sank, but he nodded in acceptance. "I understand. I completed them last night after the gala. I was ready to give them to you today." And now Javier could barely breathe as he waited for her answer. Sofia reached out, retrieving the papers. "I think I'll hold on to them for now." She studied him intently. "I'm not promising anything, Javier. You broke something precious between us, and I'm not sure it can be repaired, but I'm willing to watch you try. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. It was just a small opening, the slightest of chances. But for Javier, it was more than he deserved, and all he could hope for." "It's all I ask," he replied, feeling unexpected tears welling in his eyes. "One thing I need to know," Sofia said, her voice softening slightly. "Why marry me if you never truly saw me?" The question caught him off guard, but the answer came easily. "I did see you. At first, I really did. It was the best part of me that fell in love with the real you. Then I let ambition, pride, and insecurity cloud that vision." He took a deep breath, but it never completely disappeared. "Last night, when you came down those stairs, for a moment, before the panic and shame, I felt pride, genuine pride, because somewhere inside me, I always knew who you really are." Sofia blinked rapidly, blinking away her own tears. "I'm going to accept the job," she said finally, "and you should keep yours, at least for now, even after what happened with the promotion, especially after that. You have lessons to learn about humility and value that go beyond titles and status." She stood, gathering her things. "I have a meeting with the foundation team in an hour." Javier stood as well. "May I call you later?" "Yes," she replied, and for the first time that morning, her smile reached her eyes. "And Javier, bring yourself to that conversation. The real you is who I married, and he's the only one I'm interested in rebuilding with." As he watched Sofia leave the cafe, Javier felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Not the artificial confidence he had cultivated like armor, but genuine hope, born of the most painful truths. The path ahead would be difficult, perhaps the greatest challenge he had ever faced, but for the first time in years, it was a path worth walking. Weeks later, Javier and Sofia Mendoza's story circulated discreetly through the Riveros corporate halls, not as a sordid scandal about an executive and his secretary, but as a story of redemption. Javier surprised everyone, himself included, by voluntarily stepping away from certain projects to support foundation initiatives led by his wife. Sofia, in turn, revolutionized the company's philanthropic approach with innovative educational programs that quickly garnered national recognition. At one of the first fundraising galas held under Sofia's leadership, Alejandro Riveros raised his glass in a toast to the Riveros Foundation and its visionary director. As applause echoed through the ballroom, his eyes met Javier's, who was applauding with genuine pride beside his wife. The CEO gave a subtle nod, a gesture that communicated more than words. Later that night, as they slow danced under the soft lights, Sofia whispered, "You know we still have a long way to go, right?" Javier nodded, drawing her closer. "I know, and I'm grateful for every step." "Why?" she asked, echoing the question from breakfast weeks before. "Because I've learned that true strength isn't in controlling impressions or manipulating perceptions," he replied. "It's in being authentic, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts." Sofia rested her head on his shoulder, allowing herself, for the first time in months, to fully relax in his arms. It wasn't a happy ending. It was something more valuable. A new beginning built on hard truths and conscious choices. A reminder that sometimes, you need to almost lose something precious to finally see its true worth. To everyone in the ballroom, they appeared to be just another elegant couple dancing under the glittering chandeliers. But to Javier and Sofia, each step was part of a more complex dance. The delicate balance of forgiving without forgetting, of rebuilding without ignoring what had been broken, and of loving not the idealized image of the other, but the real, imperfect, extraordinary person. And in that moment at least, it was enough. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, under the same lights that had witnessed their near destruction, they were rehearsing, step by step, the art of starting anew. This story reminds us that we often seek validation and worth in the wrong places, overlooking the treasures we already possess. It shows us that redemption is possible even after profound mistakes, but it demands more than words. It requires consistent action and true change. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches us that true partnership isn't about using each other to achieve our goals, but about growing together, each supporting the best in the other. If this story touched something within you, if it brought reflections on relationships in your own life, or on how we value the people around us, please share your thoughts and experiences. At times, in the stories of others, we find echoes of our own journeys, and perhaps glimpses of the path ahead. Thank you for accompanying this voyage of discovery, forgiveness, and new beginnings. A reminder that it's never too late to truly see someone for the first time, even after years together.